Hey, it's you, man, from KC95 here. Good evening and welcome to Toasted Tavern. Your host, Scott Tobin, and the man called Wags are ready to bring you the night in sports. So pull up a stool, grab a drink, and let's get toasted.
And good evening and welcome into the Toasted Tavern. I'm the man called Wags, joined alongside by Scott Tobin. Scott, a big show for us tonight. We got a special guest waiting in the wings, getting ready to bring her on to talk a lot about the Major League Baseball playoffs and a little Cardinal talk as well, because it's near and dear to our hearts. But first, before we get to that, how you doing today, man? It's been a couple days since I got a chance to see you, and I know we're both exhausted, but how's life been for you?
Life's good, man. Life's good. Like you said, it's been a busy couple days, but I'm ready to dig in and talk playoff baseball right now.
Yeah, a little bit surprising as to who's there and who might be advancing. And we're just going to get right to it. We're going to bring in our special guest, host at MLB Network Radio, and a proud Mizzou alum, Dani Wexelman. Dani, how are you doing tonight?
Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you for having me. Thank you for being patient with my wild schedule. And actually, I was sick, so I sounded terrible like the last week and a half. I sounded like there were frogs in my throat. So you're getting me at peak fall Dani right now. So thank you for having me.
I mean, we can't be more happy to have you. And you know what? We've all been there. I know Scott and I both get up at ungodly hours. I know tomorrow I'm up at 4 a.m. to get to work. So we understand the grind 100%, and the change in the weather messes with everybody. So it's totally understandable.
Oh, absolutely. The grind is real right now. And, the games are late, they're long, and everyone is working and trying to squeeze in as much postseason baseball and life that they can. Oh, and by the way, the NFL season, and by the way, hockey starting, and the NBA season, everything is literally hitting right now. So no one's really sleeping, but I'm glad we have coffee to consume.
Very true. It is one of the most perfect times of the year outside of March Madness time. It is pretty good. Now, you're saying late night games. Well, we got to jump right into the baseball playoffs because we might be getting closer to not having so many late night games because we're almost to the World Series, and we might not see a West Coast team in the World Series. Let's start first with the American League side of things, though, because we know we're that much closer to having an opponent in that World Series. Houston was down potentially to their last strike last night and ended up coming back, blowing out the Red Sox. And then tonight, another big-time blowout for them. They sit one game away from the World Series. Is this kind of improbable in your mind, or is this actually more than just the cheating scandal? And also, what does Dusty Baker bring to this as well?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, I'll address the cheating thing first. So I feel like at this point, I'm past it. I would love for everyone else to be past it. I feel like bad things happen in sports, and at this point we're watching them win on the road. If they're still cheating, then we have bigger fish to fry. I don't think that they are. I think that this team is just wildly good. Like wildly good. But what's I think the most interesting part for me is that you see the Red Sox, they had to go through the Yankees in the wild card, and what they've been able to do and continue to do to get to the American League Championship Series and be close to the World Series. You're like, wait a second, what in the world is going on with that team? Kike Hernandez, obviously the heartbeat. His bat went cold. His bat's been cold right now, and I think they've been flustered, but you've seen the Astros really come through. I think I saw a stat like their bullpen threw 7 1/3 shutout. I believe it was yesterday. And then you had Framber Valdez, who was a superstar in the game game 5, right? So for me, just kind of watching their progression. And then, as you mentioned, Dusty Baker, who I saw this stat too today. I think it was, he had 2,038 career hits, and now he's had 2,038 career managerial wins. I think those numbers are right, guys. I'm a visual person, so I think I read that. That's the key to success right there. It's not that Alex Cora isn't amazing, but Dusty Baker and the experience that dude brings, he doesn't have a heartbeat. He's just cool, calm, collected. And then you've got superstars on that team who know how to get the job done. Their combined postseason experience is unlike any other team in the postseason right now.
So do you think with Houston going home for Game 6 with that crowd in that ballpark, do you think they'd take the Red Sox out? Or do you think with the struggles they've had with their starting rotation in this postseason, Boston can jump them early in that game and get back into it?
For me, the team that scores early wins. We've seen comebacks. I mean, I know we'll talk about the Dodgers and the close games they've had, and some of the walk-offs that have been happening in the postseason. But for me, you're going home. I think the Red Sox are going to put up a really good fight. I think it's going to go 7. It's going to be tough, but I think that it is going to go 7. I see Houston ultimately winning it all. I feel like the momentum is just carrying their way. The sales have deflated a little bit, I think, with the Red Sox. But you think about, they dealt with COVID, they've dealt with injuries, they're scrapping and clawing their way right now. I see the Astros of, despite the fact that their starters can't figure it out, I still see them being able to push through and head to the World Series.
Now, flipping over to the NLCS, you talked about the Dodgers and the close games that they've had. They obviously were avoided going down 3-0 to Atlanta last night, the big comeback win, Cody Bellinger home run. But tonight, not looking so good for them. Atlanta, their bats have just come alive. First off, on the Dodgers side of things, is it just a Dodgers team that's tired? I mean, they've been deep in the playoffs the last 4 or 5 years. Are we just at a point now where the Dodgers are just worn out?
Well, I think we have to remember, too, that they did win the World Series. So they're the defending champs. They played a lot of baseball despite a shortened season, right? So you're thinking about things like that. And then you are thinking about the injuries and what that team has dealt with. For me, the depth for the Dodgers is their X factor all year long. They're keeping pace with the Giants, who didn't deal with quite as much adversity, I felt, as the Dodgers did, but they kept winning and they kept winning. And you're like, what's going on with this team? They don't have Belly. They don't have Seager. They're losing Kershaw. They lost Dustin May. Like, they're losing all these guys and they're still winning. They're still winning really good ball games. So I don't think they're running out of steam by any means, but I think the Braves are striking while the iron is super hot for them. Everyone's like, oh, Freddie Freeman, he went 0 for blah, blah, blah. He went yard tonight. So in this game 4. So for the Braves, I think that they were kind of average this season. They barely just won the National League East, right? The Phillies were on their trail a lot of the season, and towards the end they were kind of flip-flopping. Eventually the Braves able to pull it out. But for me, watching them figure it out, watching their starting pitchers figured out a little bit. You've got Will Smith, who I think everyone's still a little shaky about, but the dude's figured it out for the most part. But it's been the bats. Their team was average most of the season, I think, and they figured it out at the right time. When you hit October, guys, you know this. Nothing else matters. It's a whole new season. Doesn't matter if you couldn't hit the ball to save your life, and then you can do it in the postseason. That is literally all that matters. So for the Dodgers right now, I'm watching this game. So it's 5-2 right now, top of the 6th. So LA able to scrape 2 across. But like I said, when you score early, just it takes everything out. And these teams as well have been doing the opener and kind of messing with different pitchers. Drew Smiley able to get in the game finally and help his team out and figure it out despite all the home runs he gave up, right? But for the Dodgers kind of flip-flopping with their starters, it messes with you. It changes things.
And you talked about the Dodgers' injuries, and they've dealt with a lot of them this year, but we've seen their offense be so inconsistent in this postseason. Do you think Max Muncy's a big loss in the middle of that lineup than we even realized?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you're watching Gavin Lux try to play center field, and to be honest, like, my heart goes out for that guy because I think it was he's played 10 games there total in his career. And for him to go out there and try to play one of the hardest positions in the game, you're conquering a lot of ground when you play that. And you're the field general, I think, on the opposite side, right? You've got to patrol so much land when you play center field, and you've got to take charge for both of the corner outfielders as well as those middle infielders. It's so hard to play that position. And so without Max Muncy, he's playing center field. You have Cody Bellinger over at first base, sometimes going into center field. If his bat can get going, there's no doubt about it. Max Muncy is a veteran. That dude has been through a lot as far as his baseball career goes and proving people wrong. He's had some of the loudest, I think, home runs, the loudest exclamation points in games for the Dodgers. So there's no doubt that they're missing him. But guys, like, the depth that they have, I still feel like somehow the Dodgers always figure it out. So I want this to go 7. I think everyone does too. The way that it's going, I don't know if they can do that. But they figure it out. They always do.
Well, the fact that they've already scored 2 runs after being down 5-0 once again shows you that they're not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, it's good baseball. We like that, right? We want the drama.
And if you're opposing team and you're up by a run or 2 and the Dodgers have a runner on base, 7th, 8th inning, do not pitch to Cody Bellinger. That dude's so clutch in the postseason. Don't pitch to him. Just walk him every single time.
he's got the biggest chip on his shoulder, right? Everyone has literally just been talking so much smack about this dude. I loved Mookie Betts' quote, like, dude, you drive a Benz too. Like, you were rookie of the year, you were the MVP. Like, you've literally acquired every possible award in the game so far. Like, know who you are, remember who you are. You're just as good as everyone else. So I totally agree with you. But I think what's tough is that I think he was on the IL 3 times this year, and it's really hard to get in a groove. And then you're asked to come into the postseason and be a hero because Max Muncy is out and your team needs you, and they need you to be the Cody Bellinger that you always have been. That's a really tough position. But no, you can't pitch that dude and you can't count him out, because when you do, you lose.
100% accurate. And you talked about how you believe Houston will probably get to the World Series, even if it does go to 7 games, and you want to go this one to go 7. So what World Series matchup are you hoping to see? And which one do you actually think it will end up being?
I love an underdog. I'm a huge underdog fan. So when all of this first started, as it was unfolding, I definitely was like, okay, it's obviously going to be Dodgers Astros. Like that's obviously what it's going to be. And now as we're seeing it unfolding, I think like by games 3, I was like, okay, it's definitely going to be Red Sox Braves. And now as I'm like, okay, we're figuring all of this out, I do think it is going to be the Astros. I want it to be the Red Sox. I will say that. I want it to be the Red Sox. I just think their team is so much fun, and I think we deserve more of them. But I think it's going to be the Astros. I want the Braves to be able to make it. I love that the Dodgers won last year, and they're trying to defend their title. But the Braves have something special going on, and they've got so many guys who are underrated on their team. Don't get enough love, right? For baseball, it's probably not great to have Houston and Atlanta. Those are pretty big markets. They might prefer LA and Boston as far as like viewership goes, but I think the Braves team deserves to be in the national spotlight, and I just think the Astros are really, really good. So I think today, as of right now, that's probably what I'd go with.
So let's jump to the St. Louis thing, because obviously you're from here, you graduated from Mizzou, so it's in your blood. You got to follow the storylines for sure. Were you just as shocked as everybody about Mike Shildt getting fired?
Oh my God, yeah. My jaw dropped. I hosted on MLB Network Radio that morning with CJ Nikowski, and it was like a low-key show. It was super chill. We were talking about Julio Urias pitching in the game and what that meant for them. And all of a sudden, I am like getting ready to leave. I'm going to Kansas City for a work trip, and I go and get a smoothie. I'm like trying to hurry up and eat before I get on this flight. And I see that Urias is not starting anymore, and Mike Shildt has been fired. And I'm like, or relieved of his duties. Better than fired. He's been relieved of his duties, and I'm just like, my jaw is dropped to the floor. I'm like, we just got off air like 45 minutes ago, and all of this news is happening. And yeah, I was super shocked. We've been lucky to have him on the show when I get to fill in for Mike Farron. We've been really lucky to have him. He's super transparent. He's honest. He's humble, and he fights for his team. So any team that gets him is going to be lucky. But yeah, I was shocked. I think from what I've gathered, it happened maybe even more in the last couple of weeks. Maybe the conversations that they had with John Mozeliak, they were not aligning. Their philosophical differences, which, TBD on if we'll ever find out what that exactly means. But he's an amazing dude from that perspective. And I you think about the 17-game win streak, and that's not easy to do. That involves the manager. That he is an integral part of something so historical like that. But yeah, it's a toss-up. I don't know what they're thinking, but they always have a reason for what they're doing, right? And I think at this point, they're definitely probably hoping for someone who's going to be in the organization for a long, long time.
So that brings us to the next question, like the national perspective. Do people kind of think the Cardinals are going to go internal and promote somebody like an Ali Marmol or Stubby Clapp, or is a guy like Skip Schumacher out in San Diego who's got such strong ties to the Cardinals? Is he a guy that could potentially come in here and be the next manager?
Yeah, I saw all those guys, and I was reading, The Athletic, MLB.com, just trying to figure out what in the world they could do. I think it sounded like Mo wants someone internal. So I hear Skip. I know Jace Tingler is out with the Padres, so I'm not sure if he's going to be offered that position or what's going to happen in San Diego. But I think that if he was probably offered that job, I don't know. He knows that team. He knows that organization really well. I would think maybe that would be a natural fit for him. But if Mo's talking internal, yeah, Marmal or Stubby Clapp, definitely two people. I saw Matt Holliday's name thrown out. I think a station in St. Louis asked him about it. I've been lucky to see that dude this summer because his kids are in the circuit right now with Perfect Game. But he said, he wouldn't not think about it. He's a assistant coach at Oklahoma State with his brother. But I think having two guys internal like Marmal and Clapp are two incredible guys who have been with the organization, who know how to win, who clearly potentially want to have this job. I think those could be two really important guys. The one thing I did see that if Marmal got the job, he'd be the first person of color to manage the Cardinals, which I think would be extremely important. I think the Cardinals are pretty progressive, but to be able to continue that forward thinking and to be so diverse and inclusive in that clubhouse, I think would be really important. But yeah, there's some good options. Listen, the Cardinals do not falter very often when it comes to things of this nature. They are careful, but I did see Mo said he wants to get this thing going. So I would assume in the next couple weeks, we'll all find out whether or not it's one of those two guys internally or if they go out and maybe get Skip Schumacher.
So in that instance, though, I mean, you fire or relieve the guy of his duties because of philosophical differences, but you're looking at hiring someone that, especially in Marmal's case, that was kind of brought up by Mike Shildt. Is there any worry that, that would be something that you would have to fight against in the future, in the next couple of years? Or do these guys look at it and go, I might get a major league job, I'm going to say yes for a very long time?
I think the thought process throughout all of this is that you're going to get your guy. So while any candidate has their own philosophies and own styles and the way that they've been brought up, right? And they're going to have their own mantras, all the catchphrases you want to use right now, they'll have their own thing. But if you're coming in to manage the Cardinals and you're working with John Mozeliak, then you are going to do what they would like you to do. And you're going to be aligned in that. You don't let a guy like Mike Shildt go if you're aligned. Right? You don't let that dude go. There's no way, because he brings so many great things. And he's a Tony La Russa mentee, right? Like he came from La Russa. So for me, the next guy's got to be 100% aligned, or they're not going to bring him in to do that role. And as I said before, I think they want someone who's going to be there for a while. It's not in their nature to have all this turnover, and it causes probably a little anxiety too, right? You want to know that your guy is going to settle in and get going and be able to raise and cultivate a winning team. So for me, from my perspective, like the dude who comes in will have his own ideas and be original and probably bring this beautiful spark to the game, but he's going to be 100% aligned with whatever philosophies the Cardinals want him to have.
So you talked about the Cardinals and their upper management and their philosophies. Brings me to a question. A guy that's not real popular in St. Louis right now is John Mozeliak. A lot of Cardinal fans are frustrated with him. And what's kind of the national perspective of Mo as a general manager?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's maybe the case for the national perspective. The interactions I've had with him are always pretty positive. I'll tell you this, I met Mo at winter meetings. I think it was 2018. And I obviously I wanted to go up to him. I wanted to introduce myself. I was at MLB.com at the time, and I told him my name. I saw him maybe a year later, and he remembered my name. I had zero interaction with the dude from that moment until the next moment, and he remembered my name. And I've had a couple other interactions on radio and at Busch Stadium since. I mean, my personal perspective is I think it's really hard to do that job, and you're going to be disliked. But I think you are doing good things when people don't always agree with what you're doing. I think that's how you know that you are progressing and you are trying to better whatever the space that you're working in, right? That goes for everybody. I understand why people are pissed. I totally get that. I try to take my fan hat off most of the time because I don't think it helps me in any way when I'm trying to do radio or trying to do TV. But I could understand from the fans' perspective why they would be upset. But this is sports, right? Like if you're not upset at the dude who's running your team, then you're not invested. And St. Louis fans are invested. That just means that things are working. That means people are paying attention. People are going to games. People want to know what's going on. So actually it's really diabolical, and it's all working according to Mo's plan. And I have a good feeling that whoever he decides to bring in, I think that fans are going to be really, really happy with. I have no doubt.
Well, we've got two dynamic general managers here in St. Louis with him and Doug Armstrong. So we have a lot of passion, as you know, here in St. Louis for our sports teams. I know you're going to be getting out of here in just a few minutes because you got an early morning tomorrow. But tell us a little bit about your journey from Mizzou and getting into what you're doing now and how you got there.
Yeah. So I have definitely taken the road less traveled. I think that that's probably the best way to put it. I was super fortunate to go to Mizzou, study journalism in the broadcast program, and work out at KOMU. And I think what I realized while I was out there was I'm a little bit different than everybody else, and I try to stay true to who I am. I didn't feel like the local news station path was the path for me, and so I ended up going to work for a minor league baseball team in Harrisburg. It was AA for the Nats. And I watched Garrett Cole pitch. I watched Darren Ruff play, Aaron Hicks. I saw, the best of the best out in the Eastern League, and kind of realized that wasn't for me. I actually moved back to Columbia. I worked for Veterans United Home Loans, and I told military stories, which was like the best thing in my life, to be honest, that I've done. I think like the most impactful. And I realized like I wanted to get back in sports. So I reached out to a friend. Mizzou Mafia is strong, man. It is so strong. And my friend was at MLB.com, and I reached out at the right time. They had an opening for producer editor. And so I moved to New York in 2014, and I worked there for 5 years, kind of worked my way up, and I annoyed a lot of people. I had a manager who told me that I've made a lot of left turns in a place that only makes right turns. And I think he was trying to tell me I was pretty annoying, but I really took it more as, first of all, you make left turns in baseball, and second of all, this is my path. So it's been tumultuous but awesome. I got laid off in 2019. That was tough. That was a real life thing that nobody prepared me for. And I wish maybe there would be a class at Mizzou that taught you how to prepare for moments like that. And then I bounced back, and I'm contracting now. So I work a bunch of different jobs. I'm lucky that I networked, and I think I'm a nice person and people like to work with me. I work really hard. And so I work for Perfect Game. I do play-by-play for them. They gave me that opportunity. My job at SiriusXM on MLB Network Radio is probably my biggest job right now, the most exciting. And then I cover rugby for Major League Rugby, and then lacrosse for the New York Riptide. And then a lot of odd jobs here and there, but it's been a wild ride. So it's definitely unique to me, but I'm super glad like that I tried to stay as true to myself as I could, because I'm here and I get to talk to you guys now. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I think Mizzou might have an opening for Professor Wexelman with this new class. You could go down and teach it, and you could prepare the next generation too.
There you go.
Yo, I would. I totally would. There's so many things, and the media world and the sports world have changed so much. I know when I graduated, it was hard to find a job in general. Job markets sucked when I graduated, and now the landscape of media has just evolved so much. But if you want to adapt and you want to work in the industry, you can. I think it's not the friendliest. It's super tough, and you only see the good things, right? You're only seeing like the happiest parts, but it has been like a super roller coaster ride. And I try to take the bad lumps and learn from them and move on. But no, I would be happy to teach that class. I think I know a couple of people I could call them. I would be happy to teach the class on the bounce back, the comeback season, so to speak.
Oh, that's awesome. So which Sirius channel can we find you on, and where else can we find you at throughout the season?
Oh, you're awesome. So I primarily work on XM 89. Sometimes I'm XM, I believe it's 87. I hope my bosses don't get mad at me. That's a ESPN News channel. And during college baseball and softball, I'll switch over to that channel for a while, and I get to do some cool stuff over there. But otherwise, I'm just on social media sometimes saying really silly things and trying not to take myself too seriously.
Well, Danny, we appreciate you coming on late at night. We know you got tons of traveling and tons of coverage that you're doing right now, but thank you so much for joining us, and we'd love to have you on again sometime in the future.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. We didn't even talk about the name, by the way, of your show. One of my favorite foods on earth.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. 1,000%. Toasted Tavern, I see here. Toasted raviolis are like top 10 foods of my whole life. And no one understands me or them or my love for them. So I'm super grateful you guys reached out. Again, thank you for being flexible with my schedule and being so fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate it very, very much. Scott?
Yep. Thanks, Dave. We really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a great night. Get some rest and enjoy the rest of the playoffs.
Thank you for having me, guys. Have a great night.
It's
You
our
too.
pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was incredible. It's just really great insight and just a very happy, bubbly person. I'm sure I think she's probably near the East Coast. She might even be an hour ahead of us. So I know I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm going to guess she is on the East Coast doing New York lacrosse and stuff. So, yeah, like you said, she's an hour ahead. So, really nice of her to take the time to jump on with us. And that was a great interview. That was just like hanging out, talking to a friend, which is what we love doing. And that was a good interview.
That's pretty much what the entire Toasted Tavern is about, is just hanging out, talking with your friends, and having fun. So that's what that is. And just to give you a quick update, the Braves still hold a 5-2 lead. It's now going into the 7th inning. The Braves are looking to take a 3-1 series lead. And I mean, we talked a little bit about it with Danny, and I don't know if we hit too much on it, but are you surprised at where the Braves are at this year? I mean, we've talked about the pitching staff being kind of inconsistent, the offense up and down. Obviously, you don't think about it, but the Marcell Ozuna thing happened this year. I mean, are we shocked that the Braves are where they're at?
Well, you got to give their general manager, Alex Anopoulos, a ton of credit for going out at the trade deadline and getting Eddie Rosario and Adam Duvall and Jock Peterson and totally remaking their outfield. I mean, like you said, they lost Ronald Acuna Jr. to an injury. The Marcell Ozuna, they lost him. So he went out at the trade deadline, and they were scuffling pretty much like the Cardinals were, just right around 500. And he went out and added all of those guys, and it totally remade this team, and they've been just really fun to watch. That's a dynamic offense they've got going on right now.
It really, really is. So, and they're trying to inch their way closer to a World Series berth, and Houston is one game away from that as well. And I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but there was a tiny, itty bit of controversy in that game tonight. At one point during the game, there was a light that appeared in center field, and I don't know if it was for the Astros or for the Red Sox, but come on, it's the Astros. People are like, the cheating thing is done in the past. Get rid of it. A lot of these players were not a part of it. Some of them were, but this team under Dusty Baker has really grown into another form of the Houston Astros. And I don't want to say you can root for them, but I don't know if you can necessarily sit there and say you gotta hate them.
No, and we got to remember, too, you talk about the light and the Astros cheating scandal. Red Sox also involved in a cheating scandal, and their manager, Alex Cora, actually got suspended for a season. So when you see stuff like that, it definitely does bring up a question in your mind of, okay, what's going on? Is somebody doing something? But, yeah, I agree with you. I was one of those people that even if you are cheating, even if you are banging on trash cans, I mean, I'm not condoning it. But even if you know what's coming, people say, we knew what was coming. You still have to be able to hit it. You can know that a 98-mile-an-hour fastball is coming, but you still have to be able to get the bat to the ball. And I will argue with anybody that trying to hit a round ball with a round bat coming at you at 100 miles an hour with, 0.3 of a second to decide if you're going to swing or not is the hardest thing to do in sports.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation with a guy in one of my classes today. We were talking about what's the most difficult sport to play. And, I threw out there and posited that it was hockey, and he threw back about baseball. And I think we kind of came to the consensus that they're both pretty much on equal footing. I mean, they have different types of skill levels. I mean, I feel like hockey has a bit more of a skill angle to it, but baseball is so damn hard because of that simple fact that the timing is so short, the speed is so fast, and the contact. I mean, you can fail 3 out of 4 times and still be considered successful. So those two sports are so highly skilled. And I believe they both sit kind of at the top of the pyramid of the most difficult sports to play.
Well, what other sport in baseball as a hitter, when you talk about, being difficult and failing most of the time, what other sport, if you're only successful 3 out of 10 times, are you going to be considered one of the greatest of all time? And, the best hitters, Tony Gwynn, failed 7 out of 10 times.
That's impressive.
I mean, it's unbelievably hard, and people say, "Oh, baseball's not hard, blah blah blah, it's boring." But like I said, until you step into that box, and until you can do it, there's nothing like it, man. And I've talked about this a couple of times. I've had the chance to be in the batter's box with a major league pitcher. Did it last summer, at this age of my life, and it's pretty intense to see a 97-mile-an-hour fastball coming at you.
Yeah, I know we're going to try and get Kyle Gibson on here in the next week or so to talk about a special event that he has planned, but I'd love to be able to do that same sort of situation. I've never played organized baseball, only backyard baseball, but I'd love to get into the box and just feel the whiz of the ball going past me at that speed. I know I'd never even swing at it, but just to be in that moment, that would be pretty damn cool for sure. Now, I do get a chance to play hockey, and we're going to jump over to that real quick because the Blues are in Vegas tonight looking to go 3-0 on the season. A couple of early season wins against Central Division opponents. They're facing Vegas tonight. Right now, no score, but the Blues are dominating possession at this point, out shooting the Golden Knights 7-2. They look like they're playing well. Now, obviously, the Knights are without a couple of their star players, and the Blues are without Pavel Buchnevich, who got a 2-game suspension for a headbutt to Lawson Krause on Monday night against Arizona in their 7-4 victory. First off, let's address the headbutting thing because, I mean, you can't do it. It's using a helmet as a weapon. But if you watch the whole play kind of happen, you can kind of understand the anger that Buchnevich had and why he may have reacted that way. But still, I mean, I think it endeared him to the fans. But you got to be able to rein in those emotions a bit.
Yeah, that's not real smart because you're not going to feel great after a headbutt like that yourself, and then it's going to cost you some money and you're going to get suspended. But I think you're right. I think he did endure himself to his new teammates, to the new fan base, and everybody's like, "Oh wow, that was actually going to be my first question: was had anybody headbutted anybody tonight?"
That I'm not sure because I'm not watching it live. I'm just getting the stat updates right now. But once again, the Blues are in Vegas tonight. And I'm just going to tell a quick story, and this just kind of shows you kind of the differences in classes of Vegas and St. Louis. So my brother and his family are in Vegas tonight. They're at the game. Niece and nephew are down there, big-time Blues fans. They get down there. They make up this really neat sign, 2-sided, one for Braden Shen, my nephew's favorite player, one for Ryan O'Reilly, my niece's favorite player. They're excited to get in there. And Vegas, they get into T-Mobile, and they have to rip their sign up into 4 pieces, either because it's too big or it's a Blues-related sign. I don't know what it is, but they rip it up. So they get it inside. They kind of piece it together along the glass where the Blues are practicing at, snap a couple pictures, send them my way. And I reach out to the Blues. I go, Blues, look what Vegas did to my niece and nephew's sign. And the Blues reach back and go, hey, guess what? We're going to hook them up with a couple of signed pucks. Like class organization right there. And we cannot say enough about how much we absolutely love the St. Louis Blues here.
Yeah, just like you said, absolutely class organization. And we're lucky in St. Louis, like you said earlier, to have the Blues and the Cardinals, who are both first-class organizations and take care of their fans and care about their fans. And that's really neat. I mean, that's going to be neater for your niece and nephew than anything that would have happened with their sign. But I don't understand tearing it up. I mean, I've been at the ballpark and people have come in with signs. And sometimes they do come in with signs that are too big, and we'll say, hey, you got to take that back to your car. It's just too big because it could block other people's views. But I can't imagine saying, hey, we're going to cut your sign up into pieces. That's just ridiculous.
Well, that's Vegas being a new organization. So, ha, 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 ha. Thank you, Vegas, for doing what you're doing. The Blues did have a victory on Monday, 7-4 against Arizona. Klim Kostin 2 goals, Jordan Kyrou 2 goals and 2 assists in that one. And fans are looking at this and they're saying they're excited. They're like, yeah, Blues, they're 2-0. Yes, yes, yes. But you got to dive just a bit deeper. And we talked a little bit about this on Monday coming off of that win against Colorado, where the Blues still have some things that they need to tighten up just a little bit. And you saw that same sort of thing on Monday against Arizona. And Arizona's a team that has given the Blues fits for the last couple of years for sure. I mean, you just go back to that 7-game series last year, and it was just totally horrific. They still looked a little off defensively in that game, and they're still trying to kind of piece together that defensive core. Obviously, you got Krug and Falk playing together, Parayko back healthy with Marco Scandella, and then you got that third rotation. You know, Robert Bortuzzo's in there, Jake Wallman's in there, and a couple other guys are in there. And we haven't yet seen Nico Mikkola, and that one's a bit of a surprise to me because I thought he had a very strong second half last year and was a big body defender that had a little bit of offensive capabilities that could have provided some pop for this Blues defense, especially on that third pairing. But we have yet to see him, and we still have Scotty Perunovic down in the minors. This team's kind of confusing me right off the bat. It's got talent, and they're scoring goals, but they still, for some reason, cannot play defense.
Yeah, there's question marks definitely with their defense, and I think you're going to see guys mix and match, and you're going to see some guys come up and guys go down, and things change. But I'm one of those people that doesn't get too upset. Like, you know, it's the third game of the season. It's your first road trip. If you come out of this road trip, you know, right now you're going to come out, you know, if at worst you come out 2-1, I think that's a success. And then, you know, like we talked about on the previous show a couple of weeks ago, it's going to take a little while for this team to totally blend and figure out their lines and figure everything out, because you've got a bunch of new guys and some young guys, and you're going to mix and match and see what works. And it may take a month or two, but if you can come out of your first road trip with a winning record and play pretty well for the most part, I'm encouraged by that, you know, and then come home and hopefully, you know, that was something they struggled with last year, was playing at home. So let's see how they play at home and, you know, just kind of build on things and just give it a little bit of time. I'm not going to analyze and break down and be like, oh man, this guy looks bad or this doesn't look right yet. You know, like I said, I'm going to give it 2 or 3 weeks or maybe even a month before I really start going, oh man, this is bad. What are we going to do? We got to fix this. You know, just kind of let things play out and see how it goes, man.
You're not a real Blues fan. Come on. We were saying this before the season even started.
Oh, it's, you know, and I'm the same way with the Cardinals. You know, people get so upset first week or two of the season. And I'm like, just, you know, get into a rhythm, let guys start to figure it out, win games. And then, you know, as you get, you know, 3 weeks, a month into the thing, things will work themselves out. Lines of, you know, shifts will figure themselves out. Lineups will figure themselves out. But just go out and get off to a good start and win some games and then build on things from there.
Yeah, let these young kids, especially the Costins, the Kyrous, the Jake Neighbors, get that winning taste in their mouth. And then eventually that will parlay into sustained success elsewhere. Unfortunately, the Blues now are down 1-0. William Karlsson gets the opening goal for Vegas. So the Blues do trail 1-0 early in this game. And I think you're right, though. I think you come out of this, if it's a 2-1 series, 2-1 road trip, I think you're happy with it. Vegas is a tough place to play in for sure. But if they find some way to either tie or win this game, get a point or 3, that would be huge for them because they're coming into playing a back-to-back with LA this week, Saturday and Monday. And that's going to be a tough team as well. And I think having full crowds back at Enterprise Center is going to make a huge difference. And I've talked on multiple shows about how I don't necessarily believe that fan support is like a massive key to teams winning. I do feel like it has a part in it. But for some reason, the Blues seem to buck that trend completely, in that if they're not playing in a full stadium, they're playing well down to their competition. But if you get a full arena and it's packed and rocking, that team just comes out and plays at a different level. And I think you're going to see that starting Saturday night, and it's just going to be a boon for the Blues, and they'll have a much better home record.
Yeah, we have different thoughts on crowds and how that affects people, I know. I'm kind of the opposite. I think it does play a huge factor in how teams play and how guys get fired up. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the Blues coming home playing with big crowds, I think that is going to get them going. I mean, you know, we heard the Blues talk about that during during the bubble a couple of years ago that it just wasn't the same playing in front of empty crowds. And so I think coming home, having big crowds, I think it will fire them up. I think they'll play better in St. Louis this year. And, let's hope so. I'm anxious to see how it plays out.
Same here, because we've only been 2 years removed from a Stanley Cup, and we're already longing for it. So once again, Golden Knights are up 1-0 at this point early in the first period, about halfway through the first period. Blues in Vegas tonight. All right, NFL talk now. Go ahead.
I'm going to stop you real quick before we jump to the NFL.
Go.
Something we're going to do a quick 2 minutes of college football here real quick because a big moment happened for Mizzou fans yesterday. One of the biggest signings, a college kid coming to Mizzou in probably the last decade. Luther Burden, 5-star wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver in the country, number 6 overall prospect coming out of college, signed with the Mizzou Tigers. Picked Mizzou over Georgia, picked Mizzou over Alabama, over Oklahoma. If you don't think that's a huge moment for Coach Drink and this program and what it could lead to, I mean, this could be the turning point. I told somebody this is kind of like Jeremy Maclin picking Mizzou over Oklahoma almost 15 years ago now. You're going to see a bunch of other high recruits decide to come to Mizzou. It's already happening. Coach Drink's hearing from guys that he hadn't recruited in a month that are calling him because Luther Burden decided to come. So, I mean, this is the moment that Mizzou all of a sudden could be, 3 or 4 years from now, we could be looking at Mizzou being legitimately a national championship contender, saying that was the moment when everything changed.
And I think you're 100% right on that. It's an unbelievable recruiting job that Coach Drink has done with Mizzou. And we haven't necessarily seen the success on the field just yet, but I've always preached that 3-4 years you have to give a coach in a new organization because you got to filter out the players that were there before him and get his guys fully into that system before you can really judge a football coach or any coach really in that matter. With the amount of big-time jobs that are going to be opening up here in the next couple of months potentially, there is that worry that you could see that end. We don't think that's going to be the case here. We've talked about this a couple of times on the show where we don't see Coach Drink jumping to another job, an LSU or anything like that. We don't see that happening. But there are sides to the coin too that make you go, okay, well, he's a great recruiter. He talks the talk, but can he walk the walk? And that's the thing that we're going to have to really look for in year 3 and hopefully year 4 is he brings these guys in. Can he assemble a coaching staff and utilize it to his advantage to make a program successful? And I think that's going to be the big key. We know he can bring in the names. We know he can bring in the talent. But now in year 3 and 4, when these guys are fully his, is he going to be able to produce and be a winner, especially in the SEC?
Here's what I'm going to say about that. And I know a lot of people are upset this year. Last year's team, he came in and they kind of overperformed. They played better than anybody expected them to. This year, you come back. You lost 3 starters on defense to the NFL. You lost 3 premier players on defense. You have a quarterback that you're still not really sure. I mean, Connor Bazelak is okay. He's not the guy that's going to lead this team to championships. You've got a 3-star and a 4-star quarterbacks coming in the next 2 years. That's your offense. Next year, we talk about Bird. We talk about some of these big recruits coming in. Don't look at next year. Next year, they may be a 500 team again next year because you're going to have a bunch of freshmen playing in the SEC. Look at 2023, 2024, when those guys are sophomores and juniors. That's where you start legitimately saying, okay, those are the years that Mizzou should compete for their division in the SEC and for an SEC championship. So I would say 2023, 2024 are the 2 years that you really need to look for. I mean, you should definitely see improvement next year, but I don't think you're going to see that massive jump next year because a lot of these guys are going to be freshmen, and some of the guys he's recruiting still won't be here yet because some of them are juniors in high school right now. So you still got 2 years, but that 2023, 2024, that's where I think you really see Mizzou become a real player on the national front in college football.
And Burden's going to be graduating early as well, so he'll actually be on campus in January. So he'll be able to get some of those college butterflies out a semester ahead of the football season and also get some reps in spring practice and all that as well, which is another big piece to him being successful at the college level as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun time to be a Mizzou fan. And hopefully, as you say, 23-24 is where we really start to see this program start to shine and rise and really make a name for itself in the SEC. Now, when they first came into the SEC, they put a big stamp on it and said, hey, we are here. We deserve to be here. It's gone down the last couple of years for sure. But I do still think Mizzou has a place in the SEC. And I think you look at, a team like Arkansas that started off this year pretty hot, but it's definitely fallen down by the wayside the last couple of weeks. It's not an easy division or conference to win in, but Mizzou seems to always be there as far as the conference play is concerned. Yes, they're going to get blown out here and there. They got blown out a couple times this year, but I think they have the SEC mindset. Now it's about the time to build the program, to build the facilities, which they're doing, and really start to become that legacy SEC program.
Well, and you have to look at what happened to Mizzou. Like you said, they were they'd become a powerhouse in the Big 12. They moved to the SEC, and you had all of this talent. Well, then you get into the SEC, you go to the championship game 2 years in a row. You're right there competing. Then all of a sudden, your star quarterback develops a drug problem and has to leave the program. Your star wide receiver has a drug problem, ends up in jail and gets kicked off the team. So you lose your two best offensive players. Then your head coach, who's rebuilt this program, and Gary Pinkel, gets sick and has to leave. So you have a freshman quarterback coming in, and you basically have a first-year coach coming. Well, at that point, Locke was a sophomore, but you have a sophomore quarterback who's still trying to learn, and you have basically a rookie head coach. Barry Odom had never been a head coach anywhere before, trying to take on the SEC and trying to rebuild after a bunch of kids again had gone to the NFL. And so, they had to go into rebuild mode in a hurry, losing, like I said, superstars, and it just kind of put them in a hole. And then Barry Odom, was not able to build or kind of keep that momentum going that Gary Pinkel had. So, it was just kind of a rough spot Mizzou hit. But this team can definitely be, are they going to be a national champion every year? Are they going to be in contention for that? No, but they can definitely be in contention to win their division and be in an SEC championship game every year. I really believe that.
I'd love to see it, and it's something that would ease a lot of Mizzou fans' hearts if in the next couple of years they can be competitive at a consistent level. So we'll see how that plays out. And speaking of Mizzou and Drew Lock, might we see him tomorrow night as Denver and the Browns get together? Because it doesn't seem like anybody wants to play in this game tomorrow night, not because of mainly because of injury. Cleveland's going to be without Baker Mayfield, among others. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb also out. Potential of Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Jack Conklin, Jedrick Wills Jr., just a list of guys that are questionable, maybe not being able to play. And then on the flip side, Teddy Bridgewater may not be able to play as well, dealing with a sore foot and a quad injury. So Drew Lock might be able to get into this game for the Broncos. And kind of taking all of that into account, real quickly, let's just get it out of the way. What is your pick in this Thursday night game? Because I know you're a Browns fan. Case Keenum's starting for the Browns. We've had some familiarity with Mr. Keenum here in St. Louis. We know what he's all about and what he's done. But then you also have Drew Lock on the other side. There's no offense on the Browns side. The Broncos or the Broncos. I mean, who are you gotten in this game?
So basically you're telling me 7 of Cleveland's starters on offense are out. That's not a good start.
No.
But even saying that, I'm going to pick the Browns. Keenum's going to do enough to win this game. I'm going to say Browns win 20-17, and Drew Lock throws about 3 interceptions.
Wow. Okay. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can totally see that happening. I feel like Bridgewater's actually going to play in this game.
He probably will.
Coach Vic Fangio didn't necessarily address the media today, but he did. The last we heard, he said he believes Teddy Bridgewater is going to start this game. You hear many times of teams rising up to adversity, and this might be the case in Cleveland's scenario, and they're at home too. I think I'm going to go with you. I think I am going to pick the Browns. It'll be a squeaker, 3-point game probably. But, yeah, I'll take the Browns as well in this one. And you got to look at Baker Mayfield. He's battling a torn labrum in his left non-throwing shoulder out, something that he injured back on September 19th, chasing down an interception, re-aggravated on Sunday against the Cardinals. And this is a stat that I wasn't aware of until I read it. Do you know this is going to be his first missed start since week 3 of 2018? That's a span of 51 straight regular season games. Did you realize that Baker had played in that many games straight?
Yeah, Baker's a tough dude. And he came out yesterday and basically said, I'm the one who's going to decide if I play or not. Nobody else is going to tell me that I'm not playing. I mean, the guy wants to play, wants to win, but a torn labrum, you got to take some time. Although even taking time with a completely torn labrum, the only way that's going to heal is with surgery. So, if he plays the rest of the year, he's going to play hurt. But we'll have to see what happens. It's frustrating for Browns fans because this was supposed to be the year that they really made a run, and they still could. These guys could get healthy. Baker could be healthy enough that he goes out there and plays anyway, and they can still make a run. But, yeah, it's frustrating for Browns fans right now. And I love Baker Mayfield. He's a little guy. He's got that chip on his shoulder. He loves to compete. He's tough and, sometimes tough to his own detriment because he doesn't know when to quit. But
he's a Sooner. He's a former Sooner, man.
I know. I've forgiven that part of it.
I mean, you got to forgive kids and their decisions in college. I mean, it probably wasn't even their choice.
And you realize he walked on twice. He was a walk-on at Texas Tech, made Texas Tech's team, and then tried to transfer to Oklahoma and didn't get a scholarship there. He walked on at Oklahoma after he transferred and won the job there too. So that just tells you how tough and how determined this kid is.
Heisman winner, NFL quarterback, leading a team out of the doldrums, and as far as Cleveland's concerned, I mean, if that's not an underdog story right there, I already know one that is just as good, and that's Mr. Kurt Warner, and that's just because we got to experience here in St. Louis with the championship. But that's a pretty damn good underdog story right there. And I think you're right. I don't think it gets enough play. I think, there are so many issues with Baker Mayfield in college. I know he had some run-ins and made some questionable decisions. But once again, he's a kid. And you've seen what he's been able to do. You've seen Josh Allen. He had the issues in college, and he's really turned it around as well. It's those kinds of people that are able to go through and have the mistakes, learn from them, grow from them, and become better people. Those are the people that you look at and you hope are successful, regardless of the past, to an extent. I mean, there are some things you cannot forgive. But for these kids, because they are kids, they're younger than me, you have to be able to show support for them and root for them, and especially if they're playing on your team.
Yeah, and it's not like Baker did anything illegal or anything like that. He was just a little bit cocky, a little full of himself in college, but you have to be able to do that. Like you said, he's had a huge chip on his shoulder because he's always been undersized, and people have doubted him, and people still doubted him. Even after he had a great year last year, led the Browns to the playoffs, there's still people talking about him. And he was off to a good start this year, and then he hurt the shoulder and has not been as productive. But, I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I enjoy him. I enjoy his commercials, too. He's a pretty good actor.
He is pretty good. I mean, I think he's a little bit better than Aaron Rodgers, to be honest with you. And Aaron Rodgers is too busy owning the Bears nowadays anyway, so he doesn't have time for commercials.
And Aaron Rodgers is owning the Bears, and Tom Brady loves the fact that Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. So Tom Brady's hated in Chicago now, too.
I think Tom Brady's hated everywhere except New England when he was there and Tampa now. So that's
Although I think Tom's a lot more likable in Tampa than he was in New England. I think he's won over a lot of people.
He's definitely won over me. I mean, I'll say this. I never hated Tom Brady when he was in New England. I respected what he did because he was a winner. He went out there and played the game the right way to an extent. The Deflategate and all that kind of stuff. I mean, hey, he played within the means of the cheating that he was a part of. So, I mean, he did it pretty well. But, yeah, I think you're right. In Tampa, his personality has opened up. He has become a normal guy in a sense. And this is coming from – this is a guy that's got the weird, diet and the exercise plan, all this kind of – yet it still feels like if you were to run into him at a bar, you'd sit down and have a beer with him and just talk shop, and it would be normal. And that's the crazy thing. All those years in New England, the button-up just – and now in Tampa, retiree life, I guess, he's a whole new person.
Well, yeah, you know what won everybody over was the Super Bowl boat parade, him throwing the trophy from boat to boat. That's what won him over with everybody because everybody's like, I want to party with that dude.
Because he would never have dared to do that in New
No.
England because really the water was frozen up all the time. They never roar on boats. So.
Well, and Belichick would have run him out of town if he would have tried to do that in New England.
Very, very true. Real quickly, let's just take a quick gander at the schedule for the NFL this Sunday. See if there's any game in your mind that you have to watch. A couple games I picked out. Chiefs-Titans should be a fun game. That's one of the early games of the day. Bengals-Ravens. I'm very interested in that one to see what Joe Burrow can do against that Ravens defense. It's played very, very well. See if Lamar Jackson can continue to keep that offense rolling without their running backs that they've had to deal with all year this year. Outside of that, I'm really not seeing any other games that I'm just like, wow, I have to watch this game. And unfortunately, both those games are in the 12 o'clock hour here. So afternoon, those noon games are done. What am I going to watch?
Yeah, some of the games that they've given us on TV this year have not been the best viewing options either. Here's a question for you. I heard this on another station today. So the Chiefs are playing the Titans. The all-time single-game rushing record for a game is 279 yards in a game. Does Derrick Henry break that against the Kansas City defense this week?
Oh, boy. I mean, it seems like it's potentially likely.
Yeah, I mean, the way he's playing, I saw a stat yesterday. He's number 1 in the league in rushing. Nick Chubb's number 2. He leads Chubb by 260 yards. The amount of yards difference between 1 and 2 is the same amount between 2 and 26 in the league in rushing yards.
Holy.
So, yeah, Derrick Henry is just an absolute monster. And we knew he was good. He's doing things that we weren't sure he could do this year.
Well, I think that last on Monday night, that was his third game this year with 3 touchdowns. So he's getting better as the season goes on. And we've talked in the past about, with Derrick Henry, and I've talked about this on the high school football games I've called. It's not the first 10, 15 carries that get you. It's the last 15, the last 20, when he's in the 30s and into the 40s when it comes to carries. That's what gets to you. And the fact that Tennessee is committed to that run, that even if they're down a couple touchdowns, they still feed him the ball because he can break it. He broke a 76-yard touchdown run on Monday night. It can change in an instant with him. And once you get past that 15 carry mark, defenses don't want to try tackling him again. And here's a question for you that came across in class today. So you have the option of either covering Tyreek Hill or trying to tackle and meet Derrick Henry in the hole. Which one are you taking for a chance at $1 million?
I'm gonna go with Tyreek Hill. I'm not trying to tackle Derrick Henry in the middle of the hole, especially after he's gained speed. If you can get him at the line of scrimmage, okay, but once he's built up a little bit of speed, no thank you.
Well, and I went with Hill as well because not only that, but for Hill, you're dependent on the quarterback being able to deliver a catchable ball as well. And I feel like you would have at least a bit of a better shot at that. Now, granted, Tyreek Hill is going to probably run right past me, but if I'm able to match him with speed, I have a better chance against Tyreek Hill than trying to tackle Derrick Henry. Even at the line of scrimmage, even behind the line of scrimmage, I have no way in hell of being able to tackle Derrick Henry.
Well, and if Tyreek Hill runs right past you, you're not going to have any broken bones. Whereas trying to hit Derrick Henry in the hole when he's at full momentum, there's a potential you're going to end up with some physical harm.
If not broken bones, death. One of the two, it's going to happen one way or the other. Oh, boy. Well, we want to thank Dani Wexelman from MLB Network Radio for joining us earlier tonight. Just a great interview with her. A very good insight into Major League Baseball playoffs and kind of the reaction for her for Mike Shildt being fired as she's from St. Louis and went to Mizzou. She's a local product. So, and also a very good story as well behind that is you don't have to necessarily follow the status quo. You can take lefts when everybody's taking rights. And if you're following your dream, you're going to get there. You may have to work a little bit harder. You may have to go through some lumps, but especially in Dani's case, you see that you can be successful in anything you do. So stick to it. Do not give up and always follow your passion. Definitely do that. So Scott, you got anything else before we head out tonight?
2 things real quick. Real quick football story. Some close to being breaking news. We've talked about the Deshaun Watson thing. All the reports now say more than likely by the end of the week, Deshaun Watson will be a Miami Dolphin. It sounds like it's not totally done, but they're making progress. Houston's still asking for 3 first-rounders and either 2 second-rounders or 2 ready-to-play players, which seems like a lot, but if you could get Deshaun and he's able to play, I mean, maybe it's worth it. So that's that football story that we'll have to keep an eye on as we move into the weekend. The other thing, of course, we're moving towards the end of October, but we are still in October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we are still doing the Real Men Wear Pink campaign. So you can follow us. You can any of our social media pages. You can find the link to donate. Please donate if you can. Any amount helps. Help us fight breast cancer. Take out cancer. Maybe we can defeat this thing together. But please donate and share the link and just help any way you can, because we all want to get rid of the thing that we call cancer, and especially breast cancer.
Yeah, every little bit helps. And real quickly on that Dolphins-Texans story, you kind of put it out there in a sense that if Deshaun Watson can play, that's the big question mark because of everything that's going around that. We haven't heard any updates on it in a while, and it may just be that Houston's being cautious and not playing him because of that. But that's the big thing. I mean, if he's able to play, yeah, I think Miami's probably smart in making that move. You get a proven guy, a very good guy. But if you're trading that much for the potential of him playing, that's a little bit of a tougher pill to swallow. So we'll have to see if Houston comes down on that, if Miami does match it, and then get some of the reaction from Dolphins fans for sure to see if they're happy with that move.
I think a majority of them are going to be. I mean, at this point, he's not suspended. The Houston's just decided not to let him play. I mean, he could be playing right now.
Yeah.
The league's done nothing. The legal system's done nothing. We're hearing nothing. I mean, I'm sure that'll change if he gets traded. There may be some talk. Maybe we'll hear something. But as of right now, I mean, if he gets traded, he's able to play.
And that would be exactly what Miami's looking for. So we'll see how that plays out. Like you said, probably going to be something that breaks over the weekend. So make sure you stick to all the socials for that. And also stick to the socials for anything else that breaks in the sporting world. We'll get that out there as fast as we possibly can, keep you updated as much as we can here on the Toasted Tavern. Once again, I want to thank Dani Wexelman for joining us. For Scott, I am Wags. Enjoy the Blues game the rest of the night and enjoy the rest of this now beautiful fall weather that we're going to be having here. Once again, for Scott, I am Wags. See you guys later.
Hey, it's U-Man here from Casey. For all your sports news, catch the Toasted Tavern with Scott Tobin and the man called Wags, weeknights at 9 p.m. You can follow Toasted Tavern on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Let's get toasted.